ladies and gentlemen, Victorian Cowboy here, and today we're going to be talking about TV series versus miniseries. So recently I finished watching Stranger Things. In fact, my wife and I just binged it last night. We watched all 8 episodes of season 1. And as I was watching it, I really came to the determination, well, and I've seen this with other shows too, but they have really good premises, but I don't think they're premises that should be carried over season to season. And let me explain that. So, with TV shows, you have a lot of shows, Once Upon a Time would be an example of this. Stranger Things, I think, could be an example of this. Where you have a finite premise presented as the dilemma in season 1. So with Once Upon a Time, the town's cursed, nobody can leave and whatnot. Finite premise, because in season 1, season 2, they work towards breaking said curse. Once you eventually solve that problem, though, you have to manufacture a new one, and it can get really messy. And with Stranger Things, you've got this really cool premise, but watching it, season 1 storyline could be wrapped up really well, and it would have made a great, because it's only 8 episodes, a great miniseries. And I think we're losing out trying to extend these ideas season to season and manufacturing new and different conflicts for the characters. Because, don't get me wrong, I love some of the characters and I think it would be really cool to see them again. But I just feel we're forcing things to happen that shouldn't be happening. So imagine, if you will, you take a show like Stranger Things or Once Upon a Time, and you completely throw the idea of having something that lives on for season after season out the window. You take it and you tell a good story. Think of it almost like the filmification of a novel. You have this really good story, and you do that story justice rather than trying to add in hints at things to come. And yes, Stranger Things is only, 40 minutes an episode, and there are only 8 episodes. But just think how much you could do if you add an extra, 10 minutes to each episode. How much more character development you get in that season. How much more you could expand on certain ideas that may or may not get noticed or get the attention they deserve. I think there's a lot of potential to make it so it doesn't feel as rushed at times. And this goes for TV shows in general who are trying to adhere to a standard season. Whereas if you take a miniseries and go, here's the story we're telling, let's just tell this story over, let's tell this story, but let's leave a cliffhanger for the next story to tell with these people. I don't feel that format works for every concept of a show. Now, for something like Brothers and Sisters, if you remember watching that show back in the day, that one being a family drama, you can go season to season with some of the storylines, and that makes sense. But with something like Stranger Things, and whatnot, I feel like there's a very much a disservice to the storytelling and to the characters by forcing it to move on to another season. And what I really want is, I want to see some of these producers, some of the, like Netflix really, who's funding some of these shows like Stranger Things, to stop and think, well, what if we just did several miniseries? Or thought of a season as a miniseries? That way, you don't have to have that cliffhanger in the end. Because sometimes it just feels forced and it feels strange, and oftentimes I find it does a disservice to the characters in the show, because you make one of them do something that they wouldn't actually do, or you make one of them fail to say something about a problem that they obviously would. And I feel that happens when you try to write the story instead of letting the story tell itself. Because if you let the story tell itself, the characters move in organic ways, and the story flows in an organic way that allows for a more real experience. And there's not as many forced things, and ideally there's not as many hackneyed tropes in them. And I just feel like it would be better to just wrap everything up, even if it's not a happy ending. Like, I'm not saying everything needs to be wrapped up with a nice little bow and a happy ending, but you can finalize the storylines that feel like they should be finalized by the end of a season. 8 episodes, 10 episodes, 20 episodes. That's more than enough time to finish a complete story arc. And Stranger Things did a great job bringing their story arc together. It's just at the end they leave some loose ends for the next season rather than working to tie it up and making a cohesive story in and of itself. So I really feel like we need to move our emphasis away from, well, we want a show that'll live for 10 years, and we want a story that's real. And like Harper's Island back in the day, that murder mystery, and then there were none style one, I really enjoyed that miniseries, and I felt it did a fairly good job of containing itself within the, I believe, 12 episodes it had. And I don't see why we can't do more of that. Plus, then we don't have to worry about the same things happening over and over. We can have this variety that I think right now is lacking, because if you look at TV shows, a lot of it, you have the same kind of stories coming again and again, and I feel like if we could avoid having to worry about something living like 10 years as an active show and focus on a story that will have posterity, something that we can tell this story, it's only going to last 10 episodes, but it's going to live on and people will rewatch it because it's that good. I think the quality of entertainment, the quality of television, at least American television, is going to go sky high. I feel like the BBC with things like Sherlock, or some of their series that are only 3 to 6 episodes, I feel they do a better job focusing on the story and telling a more cohesive story, and they do it in a much more condensed span, whereas shows like The Walking Dead, they span things out for so long that it gets dull, boring, but they're trying to fill the episodes. And I feel like we need to have a serious change and focus more on quality of work over quantity of work. But these are just some ideas. I'm sure I'll be back on here ranting again. But I really do feel that there's great potential if we could focus a little more on some of the miniseries and just great storytelling. So we do hope you enjoyed this. If you did, give us a like, comment, subscribe. Let us know what you think. Especially, message me back, leave some comments. Let's get a discussion going. Because I have very strong feelings about this, but I'm not sure what anybody else is thinking about it yet. But I'd like to know, because I feel like there's something here. There's something that could really change the way television works if we can work towards this change. So, leave some feedback. Leave a comment, leave a question. I'll try and make another video if there's enough feedback, and we can talk about this some more, because it's something that I feel very strongly about, and it's only growing as I watch more and more shows. So, that being said, thank you so much for watching, and have a good one.